This week on Stogie Geeks, I'll be your host, Joe Hozempa. Beside me is Joe D. The stick of the week we are talking about and smoking right now, we just lit up, is the Paul Gamarian Reserva Exclusiva. We're going to have our thoughts on that. So far, it's a good smoke. We're excited to get through it. And we're also going to take a couple moments to discuss today's date, 9/11. Some of the things, obviously, people never forget where they were at the time when something of that magnitude happens. And then when it comes to cigars, we want to take the time out to talk about some of the opportunities other than just smoking cigars that the industry had provided for us. And we'll do a little bit of story and chat right here on the Stogie Geeks.
This is a Security Weekly production. Broadcasting live from Villiger North American Studios, it's the show where cigars burn slow, ashes fall fast, and cocktails flow steady. It's the Stogie Geek Show.
A hat tip, can we play that?
Yeah, one more time.
Can I hear a...
Yes!
Yeah!
Enjoy the dirt.
Guests and friends here in studio, including a regular cast of characters, Mr. Joe Hollywood to my right.
How are you?
That's awesome. Joe D's here. Rain Man's here. What's going on, Joe D?
Roundtable discussions.
Havana Cigar Club, located in Warwick, Rhode Island, is a great place to enjoy a drink and a cigar. Stogie Geeks listeners can find a $5 off coupon on our website by clicking the HCC logo.
Welcome back to the Stogie Geek Show. I am your host this week, Joe Hozempa, sitting in the seat. Paul should be with us next episode. To my right, we have Joe D, who's in here. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Happy to be here, brother.
Yeah, it's interesting show that we have lined up for you today. I guess let's start off with the story behind the scenes of Stogie Geeks here. We had a scheduled interview, and it did get canceled because of the hurricane, because they moved from Miami to migrate to Cocoa Beach. Like everyone else, thought that west side, the west side of the state would be all right, and it's so
upon
so
further
be it.
review.
So
Yep.
we are going to reschedule that. And the reason why I make that programming note is I do have some listeners who do email joeh@stogiegeeks.com, and they always say, like the episode, hate the episode, whatever. This is what I like. This,
Yep.
They always give constant feedback. So if you want to keep that coming, by all means, really appreciate the emails. It's great for me to get in touch with the audience there, especially as a co-host, so I appreciate the opportunity to do that. So the email is joeh@stogiegeeks.com, and I do get a couple of emails, usually around Saturday. You can always tell it's Saturday afternoon, and someone's at the cigar shop or something like that,
Yep.
and they say, what's coming up, what's coming up.
Plus, that listener feedback is starting to find its way into the show, which is a great thing. And,
Yeah, it's good to be
interaction.
interactive with your audience, especially from our perspective,
Right.
Since we're gonna develop this show and talk a little bit about reflection. This show had a 4-year head start without us.
Yep.
And there have been many who have been on right before us, and some that have been on from the beginning. So it gives Joe D and myself a chance to connect with the listeners there. So again, definitely, if you have a email for Joe D, you can email me and I'll forward it to him, because he has a Stogie Geeks email, but he's not part of this electronic extravaganza, over there. So, with that being said, we're preparing for a show. There's always so much to talk about here with the industry. And so I sat down with Joe over a cigar before the show. And one of the common themes that I always often either observe or go through myself is that the industry itself, from surrounding yourself around the cigar industry or surrounding yourself with some brick and mortar, there's been some outside opportunities or some people that we've met throughout just either hanging around in the cigar shop and stuff like that. And I want to take the time to actually talk about that because, a career path for me, it's been fascinating on how much two assets have played an important part in my life. So we'll talk about that there, and then also after doing a little bit more research, we're gonna share some reflections because for those of you who know or don't know or will know now, Joe D's outside job is he is a lieutenant in a fire department. And which was a recent promotion. I've seen him work hard for that. Which his very first day on the force happened to be 9/11 of 2001. So as soon as he told me that, I said, "Oh, we gotta, since it's going to be a show about reflection, we got to take some time out to discuss that because most of us, have." A point when something of that magnitude happens where, we knew where we were, right? Just like if you would have children or just like something that happened, you get married or significant points in your life that things that have happened, a death of a loved one, etc., where you know where you were. And a lot of those are events that have just affected so many people. And I wonder what was going through your head. And just so you know, for show purposes, we just left it at that. So I'm going to be hearing his thoughts just for the first time as you, the listener, are going to be hearing about that. So we do want to take some time out for that and then do that there. But I'd love to get into the industry stuff for sure. Like I said, being in the cigar industry, it's amazing how many things happen within a brick and mortar shop. And it's amazing about how many things happen within that particular brick and mortar shop. So, someone like you and myself, I maybe you a little bit more than me. I always thought I was, but you definitely got me beat. I always considered myself a cigar shop gypsy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well put,
yeah. I go.
I like that.
I usually go until it gets catty, and then once it gets catty, I leave. And I do frequent.
Every shop has their own dynamic of characters.
Every shop has their own dynamic, the characters. I mean,
we probably fill that role as well, you and I.
Yeah, I'm sure. You know what I mean?
Like, with the gypsy character, apparently.
It's so funny. I was at an event this weekend, right? Yep. And somebody said, "Oh, have you seen so-and-so?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, he went to Portugal." He's like, "He went to Portugal?" He's like, "Yeah, he went for 3 weeks. You didn't even know, pal." Like, you know what I mean? Like, people, they've been frequenting around and stuff. And it's amazing how the camaraderie is there, right? When I did a cigar radio show, I spent a lot of time focusing on that aspect. Yep. I did interview some of the same people that we've interviewed here on Stogie Geeks and stuff like that. But, I always focused on that camaraderie and what the bonds bring to people within the brick and mortar shop.
Absolutely.
And the reason why we bring this up is because, it's one of those situations where, if you like Stogie Geeks and other podcasts and you view the podcast and you're purchasing cigars online or you're smoking just in your basement or your garage or your backyard fire pit, you really owe it to yourself to there's nothing wrong with that. Everything has its place. But you really owe it to yourself to sit back and focus and meet your version of the cast of characters.
It's a fun dynamic, and being the gypsies that we are in all these different shops.
I thought I was a cigar gypsy, but you clearly have me beat for sure.
I'm trying. I'm hustling hard. It's funny. You get a lot of the scoop, the inner workings of all the shops and the people, the personnel, and it's fun. You're carrying scoop back and forth. Some of it you gotta keep on the QT. You don't gotta keep it in house. You don't want to divulge, but it is fun. It is fun. Reconnecting with all those people and bouncing around. If you have the time, you afforded the time to make those kind of runs. It's a blast.
Who are some of the people that you've met within the industry?
Within the industry, without specifically naming dropping.
I'm name dropping. Shall I say this? Who have you met?
My first, all right,
out of cigars, but surrounded with cigars. I guess it would be the proper.
My first meeting with a few major players, Jared Trudeau and Glenn Case of Christoph. Those were two of the first guys outside of the Rhode realm, the shop realm, and great quality people. And I'm excited to see what they do moving forward. And from that, master blenders, reps, owners, everywhere in between, top to bottom. It's been a blast. I've been able to reconnect with old friends that I kind of lost touch with, and they were always cigar guys. That was my forte till about 6 years ago, and rekindled some of those friendships. And some of these guys, we get together once, twice a week, and it's a blast.
Mm-hmm. I'm talking
enjoying the journey.
Yeah, it is. It is. Outside of people within the industry, I've met Gary Sheffield. I met Gary Sheffield twice. One at a cigar event, because for those of you either new smokers or new to Stogie Geeks, Gary Sheffield released his own cigar. It's from Rocky Patel.
Yep.
So I met him there. But before that, I met Gary Sheffield, Derek Jeter, and Bernie Williams at McFadden's in Baltimore.
Wow.
Because of cigars. Now, this was the glory days.
Right.
I always talk about the glory days, right? This is the glory days where after 10 o'clock at night, you were allowed to smoke cigars.
Bernie Williams, the Red Sox killer.
Yeah. The Bernie Williams. And by the way, phenomenal blues musician, too. Like, as what, you know what I mean?
That's a little side piece.
Yeah. He looks like Hootie because he's got his Yankee hat all like that, and he's doing his thing and whatnot. But,
Very cool.
I'm trying to reminisce, which not my name, my game's going to be all scattered. More than normal, right? This was the glory days where we were at McFadden's in Baltimore and seeing we went for one of the series over there. By the way, Camden Yard's a beautiful place.
Absolutely.
If you dropped a potato chip on the floor, you would eat it. It's so clean, it's crazy, right? Fun town, Baltimore. Although, like every town, it has its parts, but a fun town to be in for sure. And I remember sitting down.
Passionate sports fan base as well.
What?
Passionate sports fan base.
Oh, me?
No, City Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
Been a few Ravens games in the past.
Yeah, absolutely.
Orioles.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember sitting down and, it's after 10, so you light up a cigar and you have your little after dinner drink and other people lighting up cigars too. And all of a sudden I see these people crowding the tables over here. I'm like, well, what's going on? Like, this is crazy, right? Like, what people getting, like the place is packed all of a sudden.
Yep.
All of a sudden, the next table over, there was Derek Jeter and Bernie Williams. And it was just like, wow, you know what I mean? And then it was Gary Sheffield. They were there, and it was pretty neat. It was a pretty neat thing. I'm like, you want a cigar? Like, nah, And again, it's like it's one of those things where good game yesterday, blah blah blah, and that was it.
Yeah.
Other people were trying to get like super struck and going there. People trying to get autographs. I was like, no, I'm good. I didn't bring my shop. Oh, you want him? My bad.
Yeah.
Like people they didn't find that funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like here I am sitting there, people get trying to practically if you want, when we had an extra seat, if you wanted to sit down, you could have at least been shy about it and said, hey, can I sit down? Sure, buy me a drink, maybe you know what I mean. But it was a fun. So that was kind of like a little story that I've thought about over today, over there. That's the type of stories I'm looking for. Because you had a cigar in your hand or because you were at a cigar event, some different pathholes kind of opened up either socially or business opportunities as well. That was kind of
Get back to Christoph there for a second. My very first event put on by the Humidor about I don't know, maybe 4 years back or so. Jared Trudeau was recently introduced as New England rep for Christoph.
Has it been that long? 4 years?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
And Rhode Island guy. I happen to really love his story, how we met Glenn Case, and how it all came together. And it was moving for me. It was moving and motivating as well.
Yeah, it is. For those of you who don't know the story about how Jared Trudeau,
the now VP of Christoph,
the now VP of Christoph, met Glenn Case. If we get enough emails on this, joeh@stogiegeeks.com, we will have Jared come in for like a Stogie Geeks short and explain that to you. And then if you give us the email, I'll keep you in a category and we'll let you know when it's going to air and stuff like that. It's a fascinating story, and it's a good life lesson, You know what I mean?
Perseverance.
So it's one of those life lessons there, and I'm not here to preach more than I'm here to reflect. If it sounds like I'm preaching, I'm sorry. I'm Italian, right? But it's a great story
really
how
is.
Jared got in there. You know what I mean? And then how I became a cigar shop owner is a great story as well. You know what I mean? It's basically I was at a radio sports event on a Monday Night Football, and I won a gift certificate to a cigar shop. And, you do the raffle and all of that stuff, and you get a gift certificate to a cigar shop.
Yep.
And then I get the gift certificate like that. You put it in your rotation, and there you go. The cigar world was nothing what it was now. There weren't 40-something shops to choose from, But you were show specific, and shop specific more than now. There, that at least to me, at my level, that was the culture.
Right. And
I started just going there. And then there was a situation with one of the employees that I'm not going to get into, but I asked who the owner was. They gave me the owner's name, and I'm like, okay, fine, cool. When's the owner going to be here? And then blah, 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 get the thing. A couple of days later, I go back, I speak to the owner. And because of my honesty of a situation that happened, we became friends, and friends still to this day. Like to where we golfed Labor Day was the last time that we golfed. We golf probably about once a week. So it's like one of those stories again, and then it became a time and an opportunity to open a cigar shop over in Providence. We're on Wickeden Street in Providence. And the people we meet in there, I mean, I could do Stogie Geek episode after episode after episode of just how it was back then. You know what I mean? Yep. It was a different time. Providence.
It's an interesting eclectic group on that half of the city.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And we've had interactions with the former mayor of Providence, Buddy Cianci, who was a big cigar smoker at the time.
R.I.P.
And Tannery Hall wasn't open because that was my cigar shop partner. Mm-hmm. So where did he go? He went to places in Providence. And at the time, there were only 3 or 4 in Providence.
Right.
And 2 of them closed at 6 o'clock at night. And we were the youngest guys, so we had the later shift.
That's it. Yeah.
It's nothing like it was, over there. But again, those are stories that have opened up, there and friends for life.
Absolutely touching on that. The amount of friendships I've made in the short amount of time in the cigar world, the cigar community as a whole is small. It's a small demographic and just interesting, like-minded people. The conversation to have, a lot of the time, completely unrelated to cigars as it is. It's it's life. It's what's going on. It's sports. It's family events, and it's a really cool dynamic. I'm enjoying it. I thoroughly enjoy my time.
It is. It's really neat. Like I've met some,
and you miss that if you're not, like you said earlier, if you're not out, not at the feverish pace that we happen to be on visiting the shops, but you get out there, you try a couple, you enjoy and delve into the dynamic of all the shops. Every shop has a different dynamic, and you see what's comfortable for you. You know,
yeah. Yeah, it's opened up so it's just crazy doors. We met James Woods at the old humidor in EG.
Nice.
Because he was eating that Sienna, and at the time, it was amazing how, before we talk about the glory days, you could smoke inside and blah blah blah, and then there was this ban, and certain cigar shops were in strip malls, some of them still are there, and whatnot, and in their restaurant. And from their restaurant, they came over and all of a sudden you open the door and you get the beep beep, with the old fashioned the doorway bell, and you took back and you're like, huh. That's James Woods. That's crazy.
Zone. Beautiful
you know what I mean? And then it's funny because then he would stop by, say hi to the guys, this, that, and the other thing. And then, he get a couple of years later, he just, gave up smoking as frequent.
Right.
He would stop by sporadically and whatnot and stuff like that. But you're like, oh wow, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like you never think about that. The people that walk in and stuff like that. And I'm sure. If you're in California or Florida, more and more people walk in more frequently. Right. And it's not that I get starstruck. I just think it's kind of interesting. You know what I mean?
Robert Kraft himself exclusively shops at Mr. Cigar in Reservoir Ave in Cranston. He's not as frequent as some, but every couple of weeks he comes in, buys what he buys, and it's a who's who sometimes in some of these shops. You never know who you're going to run into.
You never know. You never know. And I'll tell you.
And when they come through the threshold, just like you or I, doesn't matter what all walks of life. You're working on the operating table. You're the owner of a major sports franchise, blue collar. We're all the same when you come through. It's
you bring up a valid point. It's the camaraderie and the even as diverse as this world is, as crazy as this world can be, as pick a side, any side, right or left, pick a color, you don't have to, any color, right? But, as crazy, all the issues, and you watch the news and you go down there, what I love most about cigars is that, like you said, if it's Robert Kraft or if it's a blue-collar worker, a white-collar, you're all on a level playing field when you sit down and talk to someone over a cigar with a nice spirit, and stuff like that. And, I met you through Stogie Geeks.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, I knew of you, right? I knew of you. I've seen you in Havana for a couple months. Before Stogie Geeks, you were, studying and doing your work thing. And, I knew of you. And then all of a sudden, through the industry, you start to come on the show as well.
Beautiful thing.
How I met Paul. I met Paul 2 years before, at least 2 years before I was started co-hosting the show.
Right.
I met him at now he knew of me and I knew of him and I would see him every once in a while. Yep. But I met him at a Jose Blanco blending seminar event. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Which, have you ever been to one of those?
I have not.
Have you ever met Jose Blanco?
Negative.
That's, talk about this a breath of fresh air for the industry, breath of knowledge. The blending seminar it's amazing. You know what I mean? I actually have in my notes if we ever do a show, I dubbed it the Jose Blanco approach. You know what I mean? Because it's amazing how he breaks down, and it's not tailored to a specific blend or his blend or the ones that he's close to or the ones that he's involved in or anything like that. It's a real general knowledge and an in-depth knowledge of an understanding approach to you. And then if there's 20 people in the room, all the different yous in the room to understanding your approach.
Tailoring to your own personal approach.
To tailoring it to your palate.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because certain people like certain things, certain people search for certain things when they're looking for, in our case, an Oasis cigar, or if they're looking for a Fight Chuck Norris cigar. You know what I mean? I can tell you in 3 sentences, maybe 2 sentences. I say 3 because I don't have word economy, but in 3 sentences of what I look for in a Oasis cigar or in a Fight Chuck Norris. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's because of seminars like that. This show. I've learned so much.
Such an education for sure. Yeah, for sure.
I have learned so much. My first episode with Paul was January 2nd of 2017. It was right after the New Year, obviously, and it's like, wow, like just me as an understanding of myself and what I like and why I like it. You know what I mean? And whenever we get a guest in here, it's pretty cool to hear their perspective and where they're going. And I just wanted to take some time to reflect on that, because the opportunities are galore.
I started episode 221, and here we are, 244.
Really?
And just in that short amount of time, I feel my own cigar knowledge and appreciation and passion, for all this. It's been ramped up tenfold, and it's pretty cool moving forward and being able to pass on some of that knowledge, to friends and family, and get into that too. Back with the shops. These local shops. It's a nice way to reconnect with friends, old friends, family and whatnot draw it all together. It's amazing, man. I absolutely enjoying the journey.
Yeah, it's cool, and I love the doors that it opens up. I got, a fascinating story. If you like music, right, and I'll tell you the weirdest cigar situation I've been in, right. I have a little bit more because I've been into it a little bit more than you, but the weirdest cigar situation I've ever been in, I was at a concert in Providence. At the old Lupo's, the original one with the columns. Now, for those of you who don't know Providence, don't worry about it. There was Lupo's and there was like a Lupo's too, different locations, same place. It was crazy. Welcome to Providence, right?
Yep.
But I'm at the old Lupo's, and again, you can smoke cigars in venues and whatnot. And I get a tap on the shoulder from a bouncer, right? And he's like, "Hey, what are you smoking?" I was like, I'm smoking. I was at the time Hoya de Monterey Excalibur, right? Number 1.
Nice.
Maduro.
There you go.
Right? So, if we're going to do it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're at a concert, you know what I mean? And then he's like, "Do you have any more?" And I says, "Yeah." And he says, "Oh, good. Come with me. The drummer wants one." And it was Morgan from Seven Dust.
Nice. Morgan
Right?
Rose.
So here we are at a pre-show from watching Seven Dust, and a band opened up for them. And then all of a sudden, the bouncer, taps me on the shoulder. He says, "You have more?" He goes, "Come with me." We go backstage, and we meet Seven Dust. Now, before we did that, my college roommate at the time loved Seven Dust. Like he was fanatical. Would go online with 56K, the modem, right? Since it's by Security Weekly, we can get a little technological here too, right? He would go on and try to do the blogs for see the set list. You know what I mean? He's a fanatical. So I says, "Listen," I says, "I'm here with my friend. Can he come too?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, sure. Bring him back here."
Yep.
We go backstage and we meet these guys. And it's like...
all genuine good dudes.
Crazy good.
Yep.
And they're smoking cigars before the show.
Yep.
They brought that... some of them had kids and wives. So the kids and wives went on a tour bus.
Yep.
And here we are sitting in Lupo smoking before the show.
Atlanta's own.
Having a cigar and then seeing them play. It was crazy.
Awesome.
You talk about just weird.
Yep.
Total randomness. You know what I mean?
2 different worlds brought together over
Yes.
cigars.
Oh yeah. And that's kind of been a theme for me with for my business. A lot of my good clients enjoy cigars.
Right.
You know what I mean? A lot of my good clients enjoy cigars, started doing cigar events with me, and now do their own events.
Right.
With Havana next door. It's crazy. How it just brought so many opportunities for you to go back and forth in a relationship, a business relationship, help that out, and then open up those opportunities. But those are kind of the stories that really stick out for me. That really stick out for me. I remember, I know we were supposed to interview Drew Estate today, so I have a Drew Estate story, right?
Yep.
I remember... years ago, they used to have this this crazy car. It was called the Donk. It was crazy Drew Estate car. I know I'm gonna get email for this, for flack, right? I know I am, right? Which is fine. Joe H at StogieGeeks.com. I have the pictures if I dig through my external drive. This 64 Chrysler, it was all tricked out with huge rims. I'm not a car buff, right?
Yeah.
But huge, shiny rims, or if you're in Miami, shiny rims, right? And stuff like that. It was amazing. It was a guy who was freaking 300 pounds bouncing the car, right? I don't even know why you need that, but anyway, moving on, right? Right. Anyway,
paint the picture.
Right,
that's all.
right. This car, the detail is beautiful. It had the kid from the acid thing, and the detail of the car and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, I remember telling everybody about this car, dude, I'm not a car buff, this is crazy, the detail on this car.
Yep.
Well, come to find out, the car gets stolen, right? So from their warehouse, where it was stored and all of that stuff. And I remember still telling the story, and people are like, you really were infatuated with this car. I'm like, dude,
where were you on the night in question?
Right. But it was funny. It was funny, but I remember those that car coming. It was such a showpiece. Again, it was at the Humidor over in East Greenwich.
Right.
You know, and seeing that car and I remember telling the guy, like, this car's beautiful. Like, I guess it went to, you know, if you looked up some other IPCPRs and you knew the detail, it had to be well over 10 years ago that this had happened, you know. But again, it's one of those things where, you know, you never forget those pieces. You know, cigars have been just an integral part of my life, you know, both in and out of the wrapper. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like just the people that I've met and the camaraderie that I met. So to the listener, you know, we just want to say that, you know, if you're only smoking cigars alone, all right, way better with a friend, right?
Sure.
And if you're only smoking cigars, and
Get outside that comfort zone, man. Get down there.
yeah, man, come down to Rhode Island. Joe D will give you a tour of all the
We'll make the loop.
of all the shops, right? Where, you know, and it's just great to see and to take the time out to reflect that, because, you know, today ultimately with what some of the people are going through down south,
Right.
And through what some of the people went through years ago, 16 years ago on the anniversary, I'm kind of glad we just took some time out to share on this reflection.
In various parts of the country, you may not be afforded the same luxury of having 40 shops, you know, all within certain miles. But get back to you know, the very first episode I did, we had guest Donovan Bankhead, musician from Illinois, and
Yeah.
I believe it was Illinois, and where he's at, you know, the shops aren't centrally located all over the place, so there are cigar groups out there. He gets together with a certain group of guys, and that's certainly a forum that people can check out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like-minded people, brothers of the leaf kind of deal, and set it up, get it together.
Yeah,
You know?
it's just amazing how like I said, I could sit here.
There's an outlet for every cigar lover that's out there. You just gotta seek it out, you know.
Right. I could sit here and just tell you story after story after story, like people. But like I said, the more I wanted to pick some of the ones that really stuck out, so it would be moderately entertaining for the
Out of all
for
our
the
interviews,
listener.
that's the particular point that I enjoy the most. You know, out of all of our guests, enjoy that backstory, how everyone gets started, and the process, because it's fun. It's fun and it's interesting.
It's a fascinating business. It's had its ebb and flows.
Mm-hmm.
It's had its good sticks, bad sticks. It's had its reinvented sticks. It's had its resurgence of different regions becoming more specific. I can tell you 10 years ago, like, the Nicaraguan conversation was not as big as it is now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So from a business perspective, I look at that and I say, okay, this is something that needs to be looked at. You know what I mean? You know, the fact that
Myriad of topics, man.
Yeah.
You know, the whole Drew Estate craze and culture, the flavored sticks, and, you know, the youth movement that's kind of afoot now in the cigar world. I mean, you know, you touched on it a couple episodes back, the whole, you know, IPCPR and you know, where we'll be at, you know, in a few years, if it's still going to be held to the same esteem and prominence that it once was in the past. It's, you know, it's a fluid situation that we have going on.
It is, but see, you can take out the cigar industry just from I have this conversation every day with a client, and my clients are all over the map in regards to what they're going through in business. And what I notice is that, you know, there's a lot of things that mimic that cigar industry. Like, for example, there's an old trade show for nutritionists, or there's an old trade show for plumbers or carpenters or people in a trade, or there's an old trade show for insurance agents and investment people, and they got to go and you know, and
just the magnitude of the security stuff that Paul's involved in, and that trade show in itself is
that's above
massive.
that's above we can only say like one sentence about that. At least I can, and I know if I can only say one sentence, you can say like a fragment. You know,
that's
a whole nother world. It's fascinating. You know,
it is.
It's really fascinating to see that development. But it's also fascinating to see the doors that the industry had opened up to us. And like I said, I could sit here literally for 3 hours, light up another stick, and just tell you story after story after story after story, just the people I made, and the people I met. And the people that I will meet in the future just from
this is the kind of content that you can find in any particular lounge right about now across the board. It just you got to get out there and seek it out.
Right, for sure. I don't know how to transition to this, so I'm just going to do it, right?
Have at it, man.
Your first day on the fire department.
Let me take a little swig here.
Yeah. Your first day on the fire department was 9/11 of 2001.
It was.
Where were you?
I
was in a boring place, so my story is going to be a lot quicker.
Ladder 4, which the truck no longer exists. The North Main Street Firehouse
in Providence, Rhode Island.
Providence, Rhode Island.
Yep.
Being new guy as it is. Whirlwind of emotion, scary place to be in anyway. You just want to do the right thing, and but we just it was the morning time. We're doing some housework, and of course the the TVs are on, and it all unfolded right before our eyes, and absolutely that day it was horrifying, and I'm like, this is too weird, and this is my kind of luck. I figured Providence was named as a secondary location along with Baltimore, Dallas, and this and that secondary targets, and each run that we went on that day, it was a scary scene. You focus on the task at hand, but just being a new guy, even more ramped up whirlwind of emotion, and I haven't really spoke on it before. I kind of keep it on the QT, but it was just insane. The fact that was my introduction to the fire department, and that particular event was going on. The most massive event in history. Just is wild. I don't know. It was surreal. It was scary. It was every emotion wrapped up. My brother was out there working. My old man and my uncle both within the police and fire department as well, and you're thinking of every kind of emotion under the sun was running around. Just truly sad day, and just try and learn from that. It absolutely it was an education and a learning experience that table all emotion, and not for the faint of heart. Thank God, Providence wasn't hit, but thoroughly prepared for that. You can't. It's tough to put into words.
I get it. I mean, from my perspective, I was in an office building, and in Providence, and Providence was one of the things.
Yep.
But you got to remember, I was in an office building doing business. And I remember when we first got the first news that a commercial airliner had struck a tower. And I remember my first reaction was, wow, is that pilot, me.
Absolutely, yeah.
Joe Business, right? Joe Business. Boy, is that airline in trouble. It was the first thing I said. I was like, boy, is that airline in trouble. Like, from a business perspective, like, they're done. You know what I mean? Like, to make that mistake, you never think what was going to happen.
No.
And then you turn on the TV and you get the catastrophics and whatnot. And I remember, from my perspective, the people who were close to me, there was a gentleman whose daughter was in the building, who he worked with.
Yep.
She was an intern, right? So here I have this father, like, what's going on? Like, and it just stops commerce and stops the world. And from my perspective,
time stood still for sure.
For a while. And from my perspective, it was eerie.
Yep.
But from your perspective, you guys were the soldiers.
It would have been horrifying enough to just watch it on TV and sit there. But that particular truck and that particular station had all the downtown, majority of the downtown and the high rises, and that we were in and out for box alarms and high rises left and right. And going on these runs.
Which is that normal procedure? Box alarms and high rises, probably.
It is,
Too many
but
people.
the frequency of
Too many
those-
jabronis.
frequency of those high rises, was ramped up on that particular day, and not knowing if that, and the old ladder 4 had the open cab in the back, so you couldn't help it. Yeah, here I am, a new guy. I'm riding around. I'm checking out. I'm looking at all these high rises, thinking, where's the next one going to hit? And then in between the runs, we're coming back in and we're glued to the TV and just seeing all the further developments, and now this talk of terrorist activity. Now the second one's hit. It was just it was too it was too much to grasp. It just
It was crazy.
insane.
Yeah,
Insane.
The person I was with was working in a preschool, so there's no TV. There's no
Right.
clue.
Right.
No clue. I'm like calling. You start calling people,
Yep.
and no clue till like 2:00. Like clueless about that whole thing because you're working in a preschool and playing with kids and
Yep.
and blah 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 and whatnot and my mom worked at the airport, so that was that was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I often talk about this in cigar shops, like we live in a post 9/11 era. Like I remember driving to Norfolk, Virginia. My dad was in the Navy,
Yep.
and walking on the ship.
Right.
I remember seeing an aircraft carrier land, like with chairs and people like you want to talk about like power, and like getting ice cream. As a little kid getting the ice cream and whatnot. You can't walk.
No.
It's different.
Certainly
It's just
not.
a different. It just I don't know. It just changed.
It changed forever.
It changed things forever. And I was reflecting this morning, not even knowing like which direction this show was going to go on, right? Yeah, at that time. But I was reflecting this morning and saying, man, that was 16 years ago. You know what I mean? Like that went by like that.
It did. Yep.
Like 16 years ago. I was 20 change. And it's a crazy time. And meanwhile, the gentleman's daughter made it out, but he didn't know for a day and a half. She just used her instinct on that. You know what I mean? Like she knew and she felt it and she just started walking around as opposed. And then she was like, well, what happened? Like, he's like, well, everybody was saying that go back to your desk. And she just grabbed her purse and jacket. And, no way. You have to go on, trust your gut, get lucky.
That's it.
I don't know. But you imagine not knowing because it was nothing worked down there.
The fear of not knowing, those families, what they experienced. Yeah, you can't put that into words.
Right. So, for those of you who have been affected with that, condolences and hopefully, that will never happen again. That's my thought on that.
Yep.
In regards to you and the work that you did, like, it's almost like if there was a border runner situation in Mexico,
Yep.
the border runners would be the people on the front line.
Yep.
But with 9/11 and what happened on its aftermath on our soil, you guys were the ones that, if anything had happened, you'd have to run in, and that's I've always said, hats off, police, fire, rescue, pre 9/11. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. Most people trying to get out, and you guys are going in.
You'd love to say, you're going to hop on 95 South and beeline it elsewhere, but the fact remains that that's what we do. So
yeah. So.
Dial in.
Thank you for your service, and for the servicemen, thank you for your service as well.
On the lighter topics,
Let's transition back to the stick, and then final thoughts on the industry, and then we'll get to our stogies of the week. So,
Sounds good,
what you think on this?
Big fan of Paul Gamarian. I had not tried any of his stuff until coming on this show, and loved it. This is speaks right to his core blend, leathery flavor, some cedar in there, and just taste. It has a taste of age to me.
Yes,
and just great, enjoyable stick. This is awesome.
Right, absolutely. For those of you wondering if you're just tuning in on Facebook Live or skipping through the podcast, we are smoking the Paul Gamarian Reserva Exclusiva. The wrapper is Ecuadorian Connecticut. Binders from Dominican Republic, and the filler is Dominican Republic with Ecuador. Well balanced. Paul Azadorian.
Yep.
host of Stogie Geeks, owner of Stogie Geeks, and
Fellow Armenian.
has a fellow Armenian, certainly likes his Paul Gamarian
Yes, he does.
cigars, for sure. So I'm getting a component where, like towards the end, you can really like towards the end of the palate, like when you inhale the smoke.
Yep.
The smoke tends to go medium, but you can really taste that leather component.
Yes.
For sure.
Yep.
Leather and cedar. I think with the Connecticut cedar is going to be.
Gotta let that smoke swirl around a little bit. Yeah, you catch it on the back end for sure.
Yep. And in the retro, you can really taste the leather if you retro hail it, for sure.
Yep.
But it doesn't. When I retrohale it, I shouldn't say it doesn't. So when I retrohale it,
Yep.
I don't get really much of that cedar. I get a lot of that leather component.
Yeah, the leather's more pronounced. It
Yeah.
takes you back to that brand new baseball mitt you might have got as a kid, and just that like pronounced leather. It's weird. It's tough to put into words, but it makes for a great stick.
Yeah, you know it's there.
all-encompassing.
It's burning amazing. It's a great stick there. So our next segment, we're going to talk about Stogies of the Week. But any last reflections on the kind of like the paths that the that the industry has opened for us? I mean, with me, just look at the opportunity that Paul's given us.
Right.
Opportunity to join the list. And and to keep up on a podcast that's been a while, that's been there for a while. That's
I never saw myself as doing anything on camera, podcast related, any of this stuff. I know I'm just passionate about cigars and the business, and I love it, and it's given me a great forum to play to that, and as well as now jumping into the rep business in the cigar world, and possibilities are endless, and keep moving the train.
Yeah,
I think
it's a great opportunity. So the two Joes want to thank Paul Gamarian for the good smoke, and Paul Azadorian.
A tale of two Pauls, for sure.
For the tale of two Pauls. That's the episode name.
There you go.
Right. When we come back, we are going to talk about what we've been smoking for Stogies of the Week. Stay tuned.